Waterboarding gate. The finger is pointed directly at the White House by the man who says the interrogator tortured Abu Zubaydah.
This isn't something that's done willy-nilly. This was a policy decision that was made at the White House with concurrence from the National Security Council and the Justice Department.
Erasing the torture tapes. Reportedly, the CIA got the all clear from its own lawyers to destroy the evidence, but only vague interest in the topic from the White House counsel's office. Quote, "They never told us, hell no." The inquiries begin. The CIA's director, still disquietingly wearing his military uniform, testifies to the Senate Intelligence Committee. The Senate Majority Leader says he might support a special prosecutor. The Attorney General continues to sound like he used to write platitudes for Hallmark cards for lawyers.
The question of a special prosecutor is the most hypothetical of hypotheticals.
Howard Fineman on the politics, former 9/11 Commissioner Tim Romer on why the Commission and all of us needed to know the truth about all this, and former CIA agent Jack Rice on the possibly mixed motives behind former CIA agent John Kiriakou coming forward. The latest Halliburton scandal, the gang rape of one of Halliburton's employees in Baghdad by Halliburton firefighters. She says they drugged her, they caged her in a holding container, they threatened to fire her if she revealed what happened. And they may get away with it. Bushed. New developments in old scandals, habeas corpus, and the EPA lies about air quality after 9/11. President Clinton heckled on the campaign trail by a robot. And she will not save the world. She will not even save the drunken elephants. But Paris Hilton has saved an Oompa Loompa. All that and more now on Countdown. Good evening. This is Tuesday, December 11th, 329 days until the 2008 presidential election. The same CIA officer who last night confirmed that under his team's interrogation, al-Qaeda suspect Abu Zubaydah was waterboarded, who said he has no doubts that waterboarding is torture. Today, in our fifth story in the Countdown, completed the picture, saying that the decision to torture was made by the White House. Despite that, the president standing by his story that he did not know about either the existence or the destruction of the CIA tapes until just a few days ago when he was briefed by agency director Michael Hayden. In his first public statement since the scandal broke, the president telling ABC News this morning, quote, "I think you'll find that a lot more data, facts will be coming out. That's good. It will be interesting to know what the true facts are," as opposed to the false facts, as if Mr. Bush and those closest to him might not already know what those true facts are. John Kiriakou, the CIA officer now retired in charge of the team which waterboarded the al-Qaeda suspect Zubaydah, telling NBC News this morning that all torture was done at the direct order of the White House.
This isn't something that's done willy-nilly. It's not something that an agency officer just wakes up in the morning and decides he's going to carry out an enhanced technique on a prisoner. This was a policy decision that was made at the White House with concurrence from the National Security Council and the Justice Department.
And it was not a one-time only directive authorizing torture in some blanket way. Mr. Kiriakou alleging further that the White House and the NSC had to renew its permission each and every time an individual specific procedure was carried out.
Before each interrogation, but more than that, before each technique was used. For example, if you want to waterboard someone, you have to come in with a cable with a well laid out, well thought out reason for wanting to do something like this.
New questions also being raised about the administration's claims over when the videotaping itself might have stopped. CIA Director Hayden, who this afternoon testified to a closed session of the Senate Intelligence Committee, having claimed in a memo to agency employees last Thursday that the videotaping stopped in 2002, he said, after officials determined that documentary reporting was full and exacting, removing any need for tapes. But the New York Times reporting that a lawyer for Mohammed Bashmila of Yemen, a former prisoner who was captured by Jordanian intelligence agents in 2003, then turned over to the CIA, then taken to a black site prison in a country as yet unidentified, all according to an investigation carried out by Amnesty International. This man revealed yesterday that Mr. Bashmila saw multiple cameras in his interrogation rooms, and again, this would have been after 2002. At the White House this afternoon, Press Secretary Perino attempting to claim that all questioning of Abu Zubaydah, the prisoner under the former CIA officer's care, was perfectly legal.
All interrogations have been done within the legal framework that was set out after September 11th, and they are measures that have been tough and limited. They are safe, and they've been very effective in helping prevent terrorist attacks on this country. But the entire program has been legal.
So if Mr. Kiriakou is now confirming that waterboarding was used, and you, Ms. Perino, are saying that all interrogation that was carried out was legal, wait, hold on, it's coming to me. A was legal, B is a subset of A, so B is legal. Doesn't that mean you're saying waterboarding is legal?
I'm not commenting on any specific technique. I'm not commenting on that gentleman's characteristics of any possible technique. I've given you a very general statement about interrogations being legal, limited in this regard.
Legal. You said it was in the legal framework.
Yes.
Everything that
So
was
waterboarding
done.
is legal.
I'm not commenting on any specific techniques, and you can ask me all sorts of different ways and we can go back and forth, but I'm not going to do it.
It would be laughable were it not so tragic. Exits are here, here, and here. Over at Justice, at the Attorney General's first encounter with reporters since taking that job, Mr. Mukasey saying that the fact-gathering was just beginning, and he was going to wait to see where it might lead.
I think the Justice Department is capable of doing whatever it appears needs to be done. That is, the question of a special prosecutor is the most hypothetical of hypotheticals that isn't going to be faced until it has to be.
For now, we'll leave the Yoda-like tautologies of the new Attorney General to instead call in our own Howard Fineman, Chief Political Correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Howard, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Did the scope of the potential involvement of the White House just widen considerably after John Kiriakou's claim that the White House, the NSC, were involved not just in some distant way, but literally you basically had to put the torture on hold and call the office to get each stage of it approved?
It sure did. It seemed like a pretty hands-on operation by the National Security Council, which is part of the White House, and even the Department of Justice, according to the CIA agent who was on the Today Show this morning. It sure does lead right to the White House's door, which I think was why Dana was out there saying what she was asked to say.
The New York Times also reported today that the destruction of the tapes of this had been cleared by lawyers within the CIA. They never got a clear answer, apparently, from the White House. As the quote was, nobody told us, hell no, you can't do that. It suggests, though, that there'd be a substantial paper trail within the agency, but is there a chance in heck of getting that, given the nature of the C and CIA might as well stand for clandestine?
Well, it's going to be hard, but there's certainly going to be a lot of people looking. I was talking to people on the Hill today who were telling me that both the House and the Senate Intelligence Committees are going to investigate. There's the Department of Justice investigation. There's even an investigation by the CIA's own Inspector General now, to whom he's going to report will also be interesting to see. And as Mukasey pointed out, there is talk of a special prosecutor. Keep in mind, Keith, this is all about techniques of interrogation and torture. And by the way, if there are other copies of tapes around, the potential propaganda disaster that they pose is almost unimaginable, just a horrible confluence of incompetence and illegality.
Any idea, has anybody in any position of authority in Washington gone to the White House and said, raised that exact point with anyone and said, look, if there are tapes and they haven't been destroyed, maybe your best bet right now is to put them out yourself so you could at least control some of the damage they will create internationally?
Well, we don't know what's on them. We don't know if waterboarding is on them.
Right.
That isn't clear. But if there's anything other than the prisoners sleeping in their cells, it could be tremendously damaging. And the fact that there were court orders, Keith, barring the government from destroying evidence related to the interrogations, that the courts were lied to repeatedly, that the 9/11 Commission that Congressman Romer was on was lied to. There were just lies in all directions to protect we're not quite sure what. Yet another example of protecting the unknown that the American people don't know anything about.
After his session to the Senate today in the closed-door hearing, the CIA Director General Hayden, and why he's still in uniform, I have no idea, other than to scare people.
It's not required, I can tell you that.
He told reporters that taping was done under Director Tenet, destroyed under Director Goss before my time, and apart from the nice symmetrical institutional repudiation in that, does that not raise the question, is it reasonable to expect that George Tenet and Porter Goss would be called to testify before one of these investigations soon? And if not, what kind of investigation will this be?
Well, one would think so, but keep in mind, Keith, that some key members, the so-called Gang of Four in the Congress, which back in 2000 and 2002 included now Speaker Nancy Pelosi, we're told about a lot of these techniques that were being used. They didn't raise any objections. The White House, of course, is stressing that. So it could be kind of inconvenient for some of the leaders in Congress if the investigative committees, the intelligence committees, look into the whole paper trail and the whole chain of who told what to whom. This is a classic Washington story now of everybody saying, we told you then what's become controversial now.
Well, everybody can be investigated. It doesn't. There's room for bipartisanship in Washington on this one.
Right.
Howard Fineman of MSNBC and Newsweek. As always, great thanks, Howard.
Thank you.